All right, ladies and gentlemen. So in this one, we are going to continue with our review of my broadheads. And I'm not even sure what to do here except to give it to you as it is. So here are my arrows, guys. And as you can see, not one of these broadheads has survived intact. They've all had to be shaved, which brings me to my next point. They all had to be shaved, and I do mean every single one. Don't just use these guys on a metal target or any kind of hard target. They're cheaper steel, and they will roll really easy. But I did sharpen them, and they are quite nice. And so, now that I have sharpened them, I will just say really quickly that they do shoot very well. I really have no complaints with these arrows. They've been quite good. The tips work very well. They're a really nice weight. But when I built these arrows, I noticed my tail ends were not kicking around. But once you lighten these, you'll need to re-weight balance them. So in this video, guys, we're going to take all of these down and we're going to redo all my arrows. And the reason is twofold. One, when I first did this set, guys, I did not count all 12 arrows in the set. I did this as a 6-arrow set. What I mean by that is I only weighed the 6 arrows at a time. And what I had done was just take the ones that had the best fletchings at first. So this time, I'm not doing that. Now that I've made my own fletchings, and I have found that my some of my target arrows are really, really, really accurate right now. And so what we're going to do is going to pull over all my tips. Instead of just doing a few of them like I did last time, we're doing them all. Which means we're going to have all 12 shafts plus a few others. So, because don't forget, I still have some other arrows here, guys, from the last batch. And these are the same length, but they have reduced fletching. Some of them have broken nocks. So we're going to put those into the group as well. And what we're going to start with is removing all of our tips, guys. Now, in the case of the nocks, on these ones, I'm not going to bother. I just want to fine-tune the weight of each tip to match best the performance of the arrow. And to do that, we are going to weigh them. And we're going to put, just like I described, the heaviest shafts go with the heaviest arrows, the heaviest arrowheads, and vice versa. And as long as you get that relationship pretty good, the knock doesn't really make that much of a difference. But if the tail end is kicking around because it's a little too light or a little too heavy, and you change that, you'll find you've changed that, and it won't be as bad or it'll be worse, depending on whether you've exacerbated the situation by, say, taking an already nose-heavy arrow and putting too heavy a tip on it instead of a lighter tip. Well, that'll cause you a problem, but other than that, it's all good. Now, I did point out that I had put these little rubbers in here, guys. So you're going to see what I'm talking about. I actually put little inserts in here just so that when I insert these, there's a little bit of a cork inside, and it helps to take up play, but it also helps to take up a little bit of shock through the arrow. So now that we've got those done, and we've got those done, it might seem that we're done, but we are not. And the reason is I still have half a dozen of these to do. So we're going to do that. And it's the same thing here, guys. We're just removing each set of tips, but we're going to put them all lined up so that they are separate. And I'm going to put the shafts a different angle, a different direction, so I can actually keep track of which is which. And I will then know if I'm taking one of my arrows out, for example, of my target set and moving it over to my hunting set. I want to be able to keep track of those kind of changes, guys, so I can track an arrow through its lifetime and track its performance. And that sort of stuff is actually really important to guys who are obsessed with accuracy. So is the precise weight balance of the arrow and every little detail, the perfection of the fletchings. Absolutely everything matters if you're shooting at distances at 30 and 40 and 50 meters. Out to about 10 meters, you'll find it really doesn't make all that much of a difference. And yet, it does. A lot of people will tell you at 10 meters it doesn't make a difference. I'll tell you what, you shoot at 10 feet and dial in your bow, and then step out to 10 meters. That's triple the distance and plus a little. And you'll immediately see what I'm talking about, because it'll drastically change your accuracy. Any tiny little weight imbalance will change the way that the arrow flies. And so what I want to do is avoid any weight imbalances. So in these arrows, I am not going to bother removing all the nocks just because they're all set up already. And what I really want to do is fine tune the weight of these tips, you guys. So here are the broadheads, the half dozen brand new broadheads, and then we've got these guys. So these were from the first set, and we're going to get to weigh those here and see what the fundamental difference is. Now, you guys may not be able to see the scale, but don't let it hurt you. Darn it, hold on. Sorry about that. I was just going to say, you guys may not be able to see the scale, but I kind of need to see it, so it's kind of not a big deal. Let me just put that here. All right, so we're just going to get to it, and we're going to start with what I have put aside here, which were my target arrows, and I'm just going to weigh them. And again, all we want to do, 26.849, is establish which of these 26.0, and look at the drastic difference, 26.8 and 26.0. Guys, that's 0.8 of a gram difference. 25.8, you see that? That's a big difference, guys. So all the ones that are 25 are going to go to one side, and all the ones that are 28 are going to go to the other. And at this point, you got to be careful, because you start to get to a point where it's hard to keep track, right? So I'm just going to slide this over. Let me just verify the two that I have. Yes, these are the two heavies. So for now, I'm just going to take all these light ones and put them in one spot. 25.2, you see that? So we'll have one set that's 25 and one set that's 26. And those heavier ones will be for the, look at that, 26.5. That's a big, heavy bitch. So now we're going to take these guys. And what you'll see is we've got 3 of these arrows that are noticeably lighter. And I mean, don't forget, we're talking grams here, guys. This isn't picograms. This is grams. And so if one of these is 26, look at that, 26.1. So again, these are 26. And the others are that much lighter, 26.1. Those ones are really closely matched. They're pretty much identical. 25.8. So this is on the high side of 25. Now that's only a difference of about 0.3. But look at this one, 26.7. I mean, that's, you know, a gram and a half difference in some of these arrows, guys. 26.8. I mean, those are heavy, heavy. And again, 26.8. So what I'm seeing here is most of these are quite heavy, but when we take these 4, they're actually quite light. And the lighter arrows will have also, they don't have broken nocks. They all have a little heat shrink material on them. One of them has drastically shrunk fletchings, but the others don't. So these things matter, guys. So now we're going to take these guys. These are the last batch of these arrows I got. 25.8. So these go in with our lighter ones. But those have seriously shrunk fletchings, right? 26.2. Look at that. Even with shrunk fletchings and a broken knock. Tell me that's not a heavy arrow, guys, compared to the rest, you know? And it as you can see, I mean, it makes a big difference. And in the end, I will have a very different set of arrows, 25.9. So these are under 26. So again, right now, all I do is take under 26 and over 26 and separate them. So now I've got all those separated. So now we take an actual precision measurement and I put them lined up exactly in accordance with their weight. 25.8. So this one's actually going to be right on the high side of 25. And it's the one with the smallest fletchings. Doesn't that tell you something? Ooh, kinky. 26.3. This one goes in with the other package. 26.1. Wow. I don't know what happened there. might have been touching something. 26.8. Wow, really heavy, guys. Really, really heavy. And again, what we're looking for is the lightest arrows, and we're going to put them in order. 25.8. These two are almost identical weight. 25.9. This one goes at the front because that's the heaviest one of that group. And then I'm just going to do them 25.5. So that goes just underneath this one, right? We want to check them all and see where 25.5 is going to be. So 25.8, 9. 25.87 or 8.9, right about the same. So this one goes in next. So now we're going to take these guys, and it's the exact same thing. We're just going to keep going through them and taking ones that are 25 something, like that, 25.8. But again, this one's going to go right up near the higher end of that. So I'm just moving them in such a way as to put them in place. 25.7. So this is going to go just inside of that other one. And the real trick is just to not mess with the tear. If you see it not resetting to 0, tear it right away or you won't get accurate readings. The other part is to make sure nothing's touching anything else, so you get a proper reading. This one's 26.1, so just barely 26. We're going to put that one aside altogether. 26.5, very heavy. But now on the other side of me, I'm going to build up a little section where I do the same thing on the other side. So we got 26.1 and 26.5 up at the top. 26.8. So 26.8, obviously more than 26.5. That one goes to the top. 26.1, that one goes to the bottom. 26.1 to the bottom. 26.7. Ooh, that's a heavy biatch. That one goes just at the top. Just underneath the one that's 6.8. 26.8, 26.3. That goes down at the bottom. 26.7.8 goes up at the top. 26.8, and you can see a big difference here, guys. I mean, you know, we're talking a difference of a full gram, even though the fletchings are the same, and they've been treated exactly the same. 26.2. So this is right up there with my heavier ones. 26.8, not so much. 26.2 is actually on the lighter side of these. It's in fact the lightest one here, I think, of the 26s. Nope, this one is. So this is why it's good to double check if you're not sure, guys, because you want to be sure on your weights. So otherwise it'll throw off our balancing set. So now we've got our arrows laid out in a line from lightest to heaviest, okay? So now we're going to take these tips, because I'm putting aside my broadheads and using target tips. And the reason is they're easier on my broadheads. Actually, no, I'm going to take 3 of the broadheads. I'm going to put them aside. I'm going to continue to use 3. I'll set up for my target set 3 broadheads and 3 non. So now we go again. 6.5. Now really, these should be 6.5. 6.5.1. They should all be in that neighborhood. 6.50. But some of them have visited a grinder. 6.52. What's this one then? 6.55. 6.54. 6.58. So again, all we're doing is establishing heaviest to lightest. 6.59. 6.56. 6.3. Wow, that was super light. But that's good because we've got these super light arrows, right? So I'm just going to check these ones again. 6.50. 6.4. So this is the lightest one, and it goes like this in that order. Ooh, kinky. 6.3. So this is the lightest one, but we're not done yet. So now we've got all these guys. So we're going to give them the exact same treatment. Now these ones are all basically older ones that came off some of the other arrows mixed with brand new ones. 646. So we're looking on the heavier side, but on the light side of the heavy side. 653. 652. 658, that goes up at the heavier end. 650, that goes right in with the lighters. And 66, that's right up at the heaviest ones. So now we're going to start with our lightest arrows, guys. And we're going to start with our lightest tip. And we're just going to install that. And look at what we got. We got one of these with a really light tip. Now, it is our lightest arrow, guys. And when you're talking about your lightest arrow, you expect, you want balance. Otherwise, it'll flex too much. The lightest ones generally have the most flex. So, we're going to put that one aside. Now we're going to take the next one in line. Now we're going to take the next tip in line, and we're just going to install that. Turn this off. We're done with that for now. And the end result is different than had I only taken 6 arrows. And one of the reasons I wanted to show you guys that is because this is essentially a batch of 16 arrows. Now, what I will say to you is if you were to buy, these are so cheap that if you were to buy 24, you would have a really nice selection of tip weights and tail weights and shaft weights. So much that you would be really, when you dial them in, it just gives you that many more options, right? Look, don't look at a set of 6 tips and think, oh, they're all the same. Well, they're not. They're going to be different weights. And those weights matter, guys. Everything matters to the flight of the arrow. So what I wanted here was to take all of my tips and go from there. Now, my heavier arrows, of the heaviest, they are going to be the ones that get the broadheads, guys. The lightest ones are going to get the lightest tips. Otherwise, we could induce an imbalance, and I don't really want that. Now, the truth is, the heavier tips will be fine on lighter arrows. Generally, arrows like heavy tips. They like to be very forward in their center of gravity, which is great. But in the end, so here are my 6 lightest arrows. And as you can see, 3 of those have deeply cut down fletchings. And you might wonder what would make these 2 that have a little weight added and full fletchings heavier than those other arrows. And it's a damn good question. I mean, it's, you know, it's been, people try to answer that shit throughout the ages kind of thing. But in the end, it's really simple, and it goes like this. So if I have a lighter arrow, it's because of the difference in density and materials, guys. There's going to be a distinct difference between the thickest material you get and the thinnest, okay? So, again, I'm just going from lightest to heaviest here. And now I'm on to my heavier arrows, guys, which are generally my more accurate arrows that fly better in the wind. Once we get up to those, we're at hunting weight. Now consider the grain changes, right? So it matters, and how many grains your tip is. Grain is just a measure of weight, guys. You can look that up, but I believe if they haven't changed it, it's 15 to 1. So if it's 10 grams, it's 150 grain. And these tips are right around 125 grain. These ones are heavier, the broadheads. So again, you know, I'm just going through each one, taking the lightest tip and putting it on its matched arrow. And the more arrows you do this with, the better it comes out every time, because the more options you have. When I did it the first time, I only gave myself 6 options. Because I treated each of the 6 that I wanted as my hunting arrow totally differently than I treated the rest. And then I realized, well, I should have just done it as all one set. It would be better, technically speaking, but it was fine. One of the reasons I did it that way was because, well, I wanted to. You can buy 6 and just do this with a batch of 6 arrows, and it does work out very well, and that's why I did it that way, to show you guys that that's true. If I do it with 12 first and only, you're going to just assume that that's why I did it that way, because you have to, and 6 won't be as good, and blah, blah, blah. But in the end, 6 works great. So we're almost done, and you'll notice I had enough target tips to cover every single one of these. That's because the target tips never break. I have not had a problem with them. I've also never had an insert come out on any of these arrows yet. And so I'm quite happy with that. Now, I am at my heaviest 3 arrows. So now we're going to take a look at our broadheads, and I am not actually going to put my heaviest broadheads on. I'm going to put my lightest ones. 9.4, 9.38, 9.47, 9.30, 9.5, 9.37. There you go. Now I have my heaviest 3, which all, except for 1. Now this is interesting. 2 of these are brand new. I expected this, but this one has been heavily shaved down, and it's still one of my heaviest arrows, which meant it would have been the heaviest one to start with. There can be significant weights differences between them, guys. So now, on my lightest, I'm going to put my lightest broadhead. Now, don't forget, this is still 2 full grams, almost 3, heavier than the other arrowheads. So these 3 are going to be the only 3 that get broadheads, guys. But I did not put my heaviest broadheads on. Those will be the ones I keep for hunting and for longer distance, because the more nose weight, generally, the better they fly through the wind. And they do drop off, but they also launch really well. So in the end, I have to test this. I have to find out which are my best. But generally, my heaviest 3 will be the ones I want for hunting. So I've kept my 3 heaviest target tips for hunting in case I need them, and my 3 heaviest broadheads. As a review on the broadheads, they fly very well. They penetrate very well, but they have a very soft metal, and the tip will fold if you hit a bone or anything like that. However, guys, I mean, don't forget, these really were not intended for anything else, and that says something. They were not intended for what you might think. Now that those are aside, and we've established that, I've also already done my lightest arrows, and what's in front of me are my heaviest ones, and I've been laying them out in order. So these are some of my heaviest ones. Now, I will say, I've told you guys before to shoot single arrows. Yo, this is why. This was during a video, I hit the fletching. This is the second fletching of this batch I've destroyed, because they are very accurate arrows. They're actually quite good. So let's take a look at built arrows here. We got 33.1. Look at that. 32.3, so noticeably lighter. 33.9, wow. So again, we're looking at the heaviest arrows here. I need to separate out, and then look at that, big difference, 32.8. And I thought I had them in the right order, I just wanted to check. Yeah. So it looks like we've established our heaviest 3. And strangely, one of those has a ripped off fletching, which is really, really weird. I'm just going to swap this one over. Keep that one over in my target setup. So again, my heavier 3 here are going to join the 3 with the broadheads that are my heaviest, and they will make up my target arrows. Okay? No, these are going to be put aside in my hunting clicker, because they are the heavier ones, but I've left the heaviest tips out for later. So one of the reasons I've done that is just for my own kind of personal preference. I don't really want the heaviest tips on them right now. I don't feel like I need that. So these guys can all go in with my target setup. The problem is these ones are prototypes and I don't want to wreck them. As you can see, this is coming up. It's going to need to be fixed, but I did want them to be built, and I'm putting the other 3 arrows in with my target set, and the rest of these go aside now that they are built. And what's interesting is, this is the longer range fletching of them. It's also the heaviest arrow of this set and got the heavier tip of that set. So it really is a good arrow and will shoot very well at range. Now, given that I've already shot these in the previous video, guys, I wanted to keep this one really short. I will only tell you that what I have done will be an improvement because we have better fine-tuned the weight distribution of the arrows, guys. And that is a big, big deal. When you can fine-tune your weight distribution, it matters. And what you want to see is the arrow not kicking its ass all over the place. Now, in this case, I had added quite a bit of tail weight, guys. And I'm going to remove that now. And one of the reasons I am is because it falsely identifies this as one of our heaviest arrows. So we're going to take that right off of here. And when we do, we're going to reweigh it and see how much of a difference that makes. But before I reweigh it, I'm going to reshoot it and show you that. Well, not quite. I'm just going to shoot it and tell you what the result is. But what I will tell you is I just fired it and the butt end kicked around, which it didn't do this time. This time it came in dead straight like a bullet and hit the corner where I wanted it, so it's better. But the reason is it didn't have the right weight of tip with it before, and I needed to weight this. It flew better weighted. But as soon as I switched the tips, this was all over the place. Now it's in balance. Now the weight's where it should be. It has a better center of gravity overall. Okay, it's balancing right about there, guys, which is pretty much right at that point on the arrow that I talked about. So this is much better. That is a decent flying arrow. It is a target arrow that has been set aside, however, largely because of its broken nock. So let's take the only one of that old set that doesn't have a broken nock, and I'm going to fire that just to see if its tail kicks around. And this is the next part of this. So once you've gotten it to the point where you're pretty happy and you feel like it's good, shoot the arrow and see how straight it comes in on the target. And what you find is that it should be accurate and it should be fairly straight. The tail shouldn't be kicking around, and suddenly it is. And why? Because now that we've balanced these, we really need to remove these tail weights, guys. They just don't belong. And the reason they don't is because we've adjusted the weight. Now it's got a properly balanced tip on it. And so if you're going to do that, you no longer need these crappy little tail weights. It's why I do both. One is clearly superior to the other. Now I just fired the same arrow. It came in right next to the pin, which is where I wanted, and it didn't get hurt. It's fine. But again, these have been fired a lot of times, guys. This needs to be repaired. I don't want to keep shooting these. I'm going to wreck them. I want to replace the nocks. And then I'll do the same with the weight of the nocks when those come. So we are done for this one, guys. I am very happy. I will just say, remove your tail weights if you've added them. And the only reason to add them, guys, is a little bit of grip helps. Especially if you're planning on upgrading the tips. On the 3 hunting arrows, they are just fine, guys. Even these ones, you know, I don't have a tail weight on them. I didn't install one. There's just that little bit of come on right here, which is fine, and that helps keep the weight forward. You don't really need it at the tail. If it's grippy enough for you, you're good to go. And as long as you can physically grip it, and you always have a glove if you need that. So, we're done, and good hunting, guys. Now, here's the real trick. When you fine-tune the weight of your arrows, the closer to perfection they are, the better. So in the end, what you want to achieve is perfection. And the same goes for your shelf and all the rest of that. Now, I wanted to show you this. All I've done is taken a pin from a comb, epoxied it on the side, so when I view it from my actual angle of orientation, it's like this. And I see the arrow sitting right here, and I see the pin sitting right above it, and it gives me that nice little sight window. I found it helped a lot. And I'm actually really happy with that bow. I barely need to touch it. I don't need to make constant adjustments. I adjust it a couple of times every other day. Basically, I'll adjust it from what I'm seeing right now, and that's fine if I'm shooting every day. It actually holds tiller very, very well, and I'm very happy with the bow. The broadheads, for the money, guys, I can't complain. They were decent. For $10, they are the cheapest broadheads I've ever had in every way. But they fly well, and that is what matters. They are a nice weight. The fittings fit perfectly, and that's all I could really ask for. They also have the little blood grooves, which actually make it easier for you to pull it out of the target. That actually works. I have a very grippy target, and I find that these common target tips are actually harder to pull out of the target than those broadheads, which is how it should be, believe it or not, for a target broadhead. I want to be able to shoot it into it and then pull it right out. If these were barbed, they'd be more like hunting broadheads where they're made to go in and stay there. But when you look at the back, that's what happens here. They go in and the skin closes around them. Well, my target really does that as well. And even still, these pull out very smoothly. If you want to stop them from pulling out smoothly, if you were hunting, don't sharpen the back side of these. What I mean is, when you look here, you'll see that this is dull, and I've gone out of my way to leave it dull. You could actually cut into it a little and make more of a hook there, and all you'd have to do is bevel it right there with a drill bit until you get a little hook shape, and you'll actually find that resist coming out. These are actually good. They're easily shaped. Like, look, I've totally remade this into like a sword broadhead, and the others sharp, sharp, sharp. This is the way they come, guys. Sharp, sharp, sharp. But you can see the little roll there, and this will hit anything and just deform like crazy, and then you'll have to redo it. So because I care about the weight balance and I want it to be so perfect, it's really tough to keep it perfect if you're constantly dinging these up, which is why I want my best ones put aside in every sense, so that I'm not dinging up or beating up my best arrows. Again, I've already ruined 2 of my fletchings on this set of arrows, and I just got them. I've literally had them 2 days now. So, I mean, I don't want to wreck them. And that's why one of the reasons that I do this. The other thing is now I've reverted to shooting 1 arrow at a time. So in my target set, I have 6. I take the best 3 and I put them away. My hunting set, I take the best 3 and I put them away. And that's what you see me doing here. And instead of worrying about the shafts, I'm not. I'm worried about the tips. And the reason is I've noticed the tips take a lot of a beating, but the shafts seem to do very well. They seem to survive very well. And so, just pay attention to the little details. If you're going to use broadheads, be prepared to tune them a little, or use a soft target and don't shoot them into a metal backplate like I did just to see what will happen. I did that because I do YouTube and I'm reviewing them. That being said, it's not a bad review. They are $10, man. I can't even get a single good one here for that. And I got half a dozen that actually work. And right away, when I put them on, they were bang on accurate. They were no problem. They came well balanced. The finish wasn't the best, but it wasn't the worst. The finish you see gone is because I ground it off. In fact, I even shot them into fairly hard targets. I didn't find that the finish chipped or wore off really quickly. It was actually a pretty good finish. It's just not pretty, but it's functional, and it's blacked out, which means it's really nice at night because it doesn't flash. Even the edges are like that, which I actually really like. So it's like, I love that they made them huntable, but they are predominantly made for target, and that is clear. But again, they did not advertise them as hunting tips. They advertised them as target broadheads, guys, which they absolutely are. So I'm going to review them as target broadheads. If these had been hunting broadheads that I paid $50 a set for, I'd be really mad. But they were $10. They were made for target shooting. They're heavier than the ones I had by like 50%, which means a really nice boost in weight. And they're awesome. So I can't complain on any of that. As a target broadhead, they were perfect. They're the best ones I've had. I've had other target broadheads in the past that were generally either too heavy or too light, where they didn't make enough of a difference because they were too small, or they didn't fly well because they were too short. These are actually really long, and I like the length of them. If you look at the length of them compared to the other tip, you start to see what I mean. I mean, they spread their weight over a nice wide area and give you a nice wing so that weight is being flown by that arrowhead. Whereas when you look at the other tips, they're not adding anything to the aerodynamic flight. In fact, they're taking away a little bit. And by that, what I mean is, we just pull any one of these, and you see the shape here. You see it's got a tip, and then it comes around again, and it's like it goes up, and then indents, and then comes back out. Yo, that's really bad for aerodynamics. That slows it right down. It also prevents it from penetrating too deep, which is all good when you want to do target shooting. That's not a bad thing at all. So I've got no complaints with them, but they're fairly short, and they put their weight in a really small, dense package that's narrow and short. And that tends to have more of a problem because it can't fly the weight. So regardless of the fact that the broadheads are heavier and cheaper metal, they are actually better flying and much more enjoyable to shoot than the standard target tips for me, which is why I'm going to get another set. And I've seen another couple of types that they sell. I'm going to order all of them eventually and see how they work. I will share that with you guys. So like, share, and subscribe, because I'm getting pretty hardcore back into archery. And I've already showed you how to make your own takedown bow, how to make all this cool stuff. Now I'm showing you how to make the most out of your arrows, how to get best possible accuracy. And in the end, it's really not that hard, you guys. You can do it. You just got to focus on it and get her done. So, just for argument's sake here, I just kind of wanted to take one of these at least, of each, and give it a shot. So, here is one of the heavier arrows, guys, that is got the target tip on it, but it says right up there with my very heaviest arrows. Now, the tail can move around a little bit. And what you need to do at that point is find out if it was you, the fletching, the bow. You need to dial things in. But everything here is looking good, so I'm going to try again and just make sure my release is real smooth and precise. And I noticed my hand came off to the left a little bit both times. My fingers really chewed up. And so sometimes you're way better off, guys, to grab a glove. And you'll find when shooting gets painful, your release is the first thing that suffers, believe it or not. And so, yeah, I'm going to fix that, just so I'm not suffering any extra here. Also, I will say that paracord tends to dry out your fingers more than a traditional bowstring. And look at that. As soon as I put a glove on to help my release, and it's a glove because it helps the release, it's nice and smooth, and I don't feel the draw hurting my hand. So it just makes it that much more comfortable. Now this is a really heavy arrow, but you know, I aimed really high there just to see, and it came out pretty much on cue, so there's nothing wrong with it. It's doing fine, but to fine-tune these is the real trick. And you can always throw these off like that, and it's because of this. They are more flimsy than a traditional bow right and left, so you will get a lot of flyers. Try not to hold that against the arrow itself or the bow itself, because in the end, it's made of fairly flimsy material, and that can't be helped. And the idea is it helps you practice your form. So as you can see, when I get my form right, it's perfect. The arrow itself is not at fault. It's actually the other way around. It's me and the precise setup on the bow. Now this is one of the points I wanted to make. As we get through this process and you start seeing better and better performance from the arrows, the bow matters more and more, because in the beginning, you know, of course the bow matters huge. It's what's flinging the arrows. And then you switch to a point where you're entirely focused on upgrading your arrows and your bow is good. Then you get to a point where the arrows get so good that they start to reveal other imperfections. And that is always the case, guys. If you are going to have any kind of imperfection, it's going to be revealed. Now, I just threw a shot off at the pin here, guys. Nice penetration, broadhead, very accurate. I like it. Not a problem there, guys. I'm happy with all those arrows. So now, I've taken some of the heaviest ones. I'm going to take a pair of the lightest ones, and I'm just going to fire those. And we're just looking to see if the tail kicks around. Is it responsive to my precise habits. Does it go where I tell it to go? And as you can see, let me see, can you see? Yes, it really did. And again, perfect, bang on. These arrows, these lighter arrows fire really great, guys. And so do the heavier ones when they're properly matched. And that's the real trick, is they have to be properly matched. If the heads are way out of whack with the tails, they'll be all over the place. So next I'd like to order some more nocks, because the nocks are the first thing to go. So if you're going to get into archery and you're going to get some arrows, I actually recommend you buy some nocks with your arrows, no matter who you get your arrows from. And the reason is they will just get destroyed. Now those Barnate 28 inches, those are like glued on. You don't want that. If you're going to get that, you're not getting replaceable anything. You're getting stuff that you got to drill out. Don't do that. You can also, from AliExpress and from trying to get 4.2 mil shafts, which are standard width for here. But these are 6.2 mil. So just be aware, if you're going to get that, you're going to have to change your kind of itinerary. So in the end, this is the bow that I have been shooting. It's pretty straightforward. I haven't really done anything. Heck, I haven't even finished it yet, you know, but I did wax this and it comes out pretty taut, pretty stiff. These are good strings, guys. Like you'd be surprised how much power this has in it, and how much speed it has. But I also have a couple of nocks on here. And one of the reasons I do is because they add more weight to the string. I also have a serving underneath that's hard and locked in and actually waxed in place. And I find by sewing a base serving here and then putting my nock on top of it, it really has locked it in good. Since I did this, it's never ever moved, even the tiniest little bit, and it's the only nock I've done that I've never moved ever. This one's great, but I can move it if I have to, if I pull it hard enough. You might think, no, this is so tightly locked in, guys, it's not going anywhere, which is why I had to wait till the string was stretched in and waxed and all that stuff. But this is a good bow. It's been very good, and it continues to be a very reliable machine to fling arrows with, guys. So that's it for this one. I apologize for this being such a crazy long series, guys. But in the end, it has gotten me a bunch of arrows. I've got my 6 target arrows that are nicely sorted, nicely balanced. They're not perfect. I could fine-tune these balances and keep experimenting and adjusting. And this is what I was going to say to you guys. A lot of people spend a lot of money on their arrows, on different heads, on different that. Yo, I've achieved the exact same results by taking the 12 tips that I have with the 12 shafts and the 12 nocks, laying them all out, lightest to heaviest, install all the lightest stuff on the lightest shaft, and keep going from there, working your way up to the heaviest. Put your heaviest aside for your target arrows, or for your hunting arrows, for impact force, and put your lightest ones aside for popping targets, and you'll find that they all work real well. They shoot better, and it's a guarantee. When they're properly balanced, they will shoot better, and if you improve the weight balance, they will shoot better. One of the reasons I like to have a bunch of tips, and that's the other thing I was going to recommend, get yourself an extra set of tips and an extra set of nocks. That way you can experiment. The more options you have of length and actual specific weight, the better it'll be for you in the long run, because the more you can experiment. Sometimes you can do a lot better by buying a second cheap set of tips that were identical to what you already had, because there'll be different weights and you experiment with the weights. So it comes in a couple of forms. One, I want to identify ones that fly the way I want. Like I like those broadheads. So I'm going to start replacing some of my target tips with the broadheads, you might think, but they are a lot of maintenance. I don't want a lot of maintenance in my regular setup. When I punch through and through, which they tend to do, they hit the plate and then they just deform and wreck themselves. And then I have to re-grind them, and then their weights changed, and then I have to redo all their weights, which is what led me to do this video today. I had to redo all the weights of those arrows, and in the end, they came out completely differently than I had expected. In fact, 3 of the arrows that had been in my hunting setup were too light and are now in my target setup because they were just really light arrows. And I want more impact force from my hunting setup for better penetration. And so what I've taken is those best penetrating arrows, put my best tips on them, but don't forget I didn't use my heaviest tips. I kept those aside. That's so I can target shoot with my best arrows and not wreck my best tips. It's one of the reasons I recommend you do what I do, is do them by weight. So let's, let's say I've got one that's a little rough, but it's exactly the same weight as my best one. You can sub that one out and just go by weight and target shoot that one. And then when you go to hunt, put the good one on and it'll make a big difference. Or tournaments or anything like that. I always recommend you keep your best arrowheads aside and separate. But you don't want bad ones. I mean, you want ones that fly well, right? And so in the end, I found that, I could have ordered new tips and new nocks and experimented with them. I could still be experimenting with different weights to find the one that works best. Instead, I took the range of weights that I had and started applying them in order to my arrows because I already knew the lightest ones prefer the lighter tips. It's just how it is. The lighter the material, the more flexible it's going to be because it's a little thinner than all the rest. That's why it's lighter, or it's a little less dense. And in either case, it's going to flex more, which means putting the heavier gear on it is only going to encourage it to break. That being said, we're done for this one, guys. Keith out.